This is Metro Week. Our top story, the U.S. immigration system and its impact locally. We'll hear from reporters who spent months with a family affected by the country's immigration policies. Then we'll go to a resource center in a local school district that helps students meet the challenges they face when family situations affect their education.
Welcome to Metro Week. I'm Andrea Kelly. This episode, we're highlighting an Arizona Public Media special report produced in collaboration with the Arizona Daily Star. For several months, AZPM's Fernanda Echavarri and Perla Treviso of the Star got to know the De La Rosa family, 4 U.S. citizen children whose mother lacks legal status. They explored how the country's immigration policies have affected this family. First, we'll hear from Bill De La Rosa with his perspective on how their mother's absence affected each of his siblings.
Well, Jim has always been reserved, to himself. I think he was always in denial of what happened and how he was going to have to contribute. Joining the Marines was a way of leaving everything behind, sort of just letting go of the stress that came with this. But I think within him, he did care a lot. He cares a lot about it now. He's just not the person that shares it. He doesn't like sharing his feelings or how he feels about things. What he wants to do as a career is going to be affected by this situation. Leaving the Marines, coming here, and being the caretaker for my dad, staying at home most of the day, and not seeing a friend or going out to see a movie, living that same pattern that becomes really repetitive. That's something that I've seen Jim wrestle with. Him recognizing the fact that this will go on for a few years. And then Naomi, because she's the only girl in the family, I think it was hard for her to speak out and also share how she felt and how she was affected by things. So I didn't really have that close interaction with her, especially because I wasn't that close with her when my mom was here. But as we got closer, I saw that it did affect her. She never really opened up, but being her quiet self, I could notice that she thought about a lot of things. But I think I also helped her because I became a good role model for her. So she tried to do after me. So she saw me cleaning the house. She began to clean the house. She saw me cooking. She began to observe and also take notes. And so I think she saw the responsibilities that I had. So she really stepped up, made a huge effort, as a young girl to help in whatever capacity she could. And not just at home, but also doing good in school. I've always told Naomi that, and Bobby, I was like, look, my mom did all these things, and because of her, we're here today. Don't let what she did, die in vain. While Bobby was young, I knew Bobby was affected a lot because he was little and he didn't have his mother. I know every time he visits my mom and stays there, and when he leaves, he cries. He thinks about this a lot. I've gotten in touch with his principal, his counselors, and his teachers, and his after-school project. So they call me when something is wrong, and so they call me constantly when Bobby is, when he cries at school, if he's being bullied, because they tell him that his dad's gonna die, and when he does, he's gonna be orphaned, because my mom is in Mexico. As a kid, he's understanding things through these lens of not being with his mother and having my dad struggle, in part because his partner is not here. So I know it's affected him a lot, but he tries to be really strong in front of me and not really show it. And me, well, it was hard. I never really liked to show it, especially in front of them, just because I knew I had to be strong. I knew when my mom absent and my dad being sick, and I knew that they needed someone strong to wear a different mask in front of them. I mean, for sure it affected me, but it also helped me a lot. I became more responsible. I became more devoted to school, and just a positive role model in front of them for them to look up to.
That's just one component of the report you'll find at a special website, dividedbylaw.com. For more on this family's story and what it tells us about immigration policies in the United States, I invited the reporters here to the studio. AZPM's Fernanda Echavarri and Perla Treviso of The Star joined me to shed more light on the story. Perla, Fernanda, thank you so much for being here. Perla, we just heard from Bill De La Rosa, one of the siblings in this family affected by immigration policies. Give us the background. What led to the family's separation?
A lot of things went wrong with this family. So the mother came to the United States at first with a visa, overstayed a visa, at some point left and came back. It turns out that the father all that time was a U.S. citizen because his mother was a U.S. citizen, but he didn't get that until the early 2000s. Then, they applied for the wrong paperwork or filed the wrong application. Then they were denied in Tucson and ultimately led to a 10-year ban from the United States when she tried to process her green card in Juarez, Mexico. And there was no waiver, no recourse. She just simply had to wait the 10 years. So that was in 2006.
And all of the siblings, all of the children are U.S. citizens?
All of the siblings are U.S. citizens. The husband is a U.S. citizen. The mother is the only one without legal status.
Fernanda, how did the two of you find this family?
We knew we wanted to do this story before we even found the family. We wanted to hopefully find somebody who could show us, or somebody that we could sort of use to show what happens to American kids of undocumented parents. And we went to a forum that Congressman Raul Grijalva hosted on sort of how to apply for deferred action for childhood arrivals, a program that's existed for a few years now. And before the congressman started speaking, there was a little boy that got up on stage and he read a letter. And it was talking about his family, how much he missed his mother. And Perla and I looked at each other and we were like, we have to find this family. We have to talk to him and get to know the family more. So that's how that little boy was Bobby, who you saw in the slideshow. So that's how we found the family.
And Perla, describe the reporting process, how much time you spent and what work you had to do to get to these end result stories.
So we met them in May and we waited for Bill, one of the oldest siblings, to come back from university. He's the one kind of who makes the decisions in the family. So we wanted to, first we met with the whole family here in Tucson and Nogales, explained to them, this is not just going to be a quick interview. We really want to spend time with you. We wanted to show readers and listeners what it was like, not just tell them. So that implied spending a lot of time, seeing them getting ready for school, being there when they're fixing dinner and figuring out what to eat, being there when they're in Nogales with the mom and spending time with the mom, as she retells the story of how it was when she first got to Nogales. So it meant a lot of time, and also we spoke with a lot of experts, even if they're not all quoted in the stories. We read a lot of research reports, studies, spoke with a lot of experts because we really wanted to get a full understanding or a more comprehensive understanding of what these families in general go through. So it was a lot of interviews, a lot of time bugging them, but I think it was well worth it.
And we also spoke with people who knew the family personally, either a family friend that you hear and read in the story that has been helping them for years, a school counselor, an after-school program director who knew the whole family. So this family was well known. They sort of stood out from the beginning as being a family that before any of this happened, the parents were very involved in their studies. All the kids were very serious about school. So the people around them knew them. And then when this happened and the mother gets separated from the children, then everybody around them sort of comes together to try to help them. So we try to interview those people as well.
Now, not all of them made it into the story, and I'm not sure
Right.
people realize that journalists talk to people who don't always make it in the story. So why did you talk to all of the surrounding family and friends?
We wanted to get, and this was an interesting process for me and I think for Perla also. We wanted to get to know the family, and we sort of bounced ideas of each other of like, did you feel this about this person? How did you observe that interaction? To kind of back up our feelings and our observations of the family. But talking to people who have known them for years was very important because we were not there 6 years ago when the separation first happened. So that allowed us to get to understand what happened 6 years ago a little bit better.
And Perla, why did you do the story in the first place? Why did you decide to tell this family story?
So there are more than 4.5 million children, and these are just estimates. Really, no one knows for sure how many, but there's more than 4.5 million children who are U.S. citizens and have at least one parent who's in the country legally. And it's not an insignificant number. And again, there's a lot of research that these kids tend not to do so well in school, tend to live in poverty and suffer from mental health issues like anxiety or depression. But what is it like really for one family? And that's what we're trying to get at, because at the end of the day, whatever happens to these children, it's going to impact the country's future generations. And as one professor said, who do you think is going to be our next police officers, nurses, doctors, or even high school dropouts? I mean, we really need to start paying attention what is happening, because it is not an insignificant number.
And I think a lot of times when we think or report on immigration, or as an audience, when you read immigration stories, it's not this abstract concept or something that's going on in Washington, D.C., or something that only affects those who cross the desert illegally themselves. Immigration policy is affecting U.S. citizens. It's affecting entire communities. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to tell the story.
How did this story differ from the other types of immigration policy coverage you've done?
I think for us as reporters, sometimes it's a little more difficult to get inside of the family and to really see how policies affect real people. And this was a little different for me, because I was able to have sort of full access to this family and see how policies are directly affecting them here. This was also something that took many, many, many months. So normally we don't have the time to spend on something like this, and we don't have the access either. So that was different, because we wanted to tell the story also through the eyes of the children. So it's not really told through the eyes of the mother or the father. It's really through the children.
Perla, how about you? How did this differ from your other immigration policy coverage?
For me, I have done kind of narrative style of reporting before and various immigration issues, but this time having it be complemented with radio was the biggest difference. Not only in the working process, I had no idea about audio and what she was looking for, because I'm used to just sitting down with my notepad and observing. So in that sense, that was very different, but I think it added a richness to the story that otherwise could not have been achieved. So for me, it was more the collaboration with a different media outlet and platform that was the biggest difference.
And I think we should mention that we were lucky enough to work with Mike Christie from the Arizona Daily Star. He's a wonderful photographer, and I think being able to see the faces of these 20-something-year-olds and then the 10-year-old and the teenage girl was really important to the story. So it was also very interesting for me to work with a different news organization on something like this.
And they did really well. Mike and Fernanda managed to okay, now I'm gonna get audio, okay, now I'm gonna take pictures, and really good at communicating, because you don't want the cheddar being in the photo, in the audio, and you don't want the mic being in the photo. So that was also something that they did really well.
And I'll say, as a consumer of your story, I was not working on the story with you, but to read your descriptions in the writing of what this family was going through, to hear their voices and their own experience, and then also to see the photos, it really makes it a rich way to tell the story. And I want to ask you guys why you think we don't tend to see many stories told this way. Perla?
Well, I think there's a lot of good work out there. I mean, journalists are doing, and not only in terms of immigration, but other types of policy, environment, and we all look, I think a lot of us look for that human interest kind of story to make it more relatable to the audience, to our readers. But there's less and less time and resources for journalists. As we said, here we had 3 people working on it for 4 months, plus we had on the technical side to develop the website and the presentation and the editors. And I mean, so a lot of work and time was put into this, and unfortunately there are less and less resources for that. So I think that's why collaborations with other media outlets come into play, because we get to unite our limited resources and reach a wider audience, which is why we do the work we do. We want people to read it and listen it and see it. So I think, there's great stuff out there, less resources, so more collaborations are needed like this.
And I think also the time that we spent with the family allowed us to get to those personal moments with them. It's not easy for people to allow somebody with a microphone and with a camera to spend so much time with them in their home and in their most sort of personal moments. So I think that sometimes you don't hear or read stories like this because people are a little bit more careful about how much they want to share with reporters.
You've talked about that you spent months with them. Can you give us any kind of quantifying figures of how much time you actually spent with them?
I don't know how much time we actually spent
We
with
would
them,
try
but
to visit with them maybe once a week. You also don't want to overwhelm them.
Yeah.
You know, you are completely invading. And after a while, they get used to having you
Mm-hmm.
around, but it's still not the same. So you also don't want to, you want to give them space. So we would try to go maybe once a week and alternate between Tucson and Nogales. And do things with them outside of the house too. So if Jim was volunteering with Humane Borders, can we tag along? When Naomi went to teen court, can we tag along? So we'd also try to space it to give them some space and let them live their lives.
And just as a side note, the photographer Mike Christie told us yesterday, I think he shot more than 6,000 photographs. I went through a little over 25 hours of raw tape, and that's just when I was recording. There was a lot of time spent where Perla wasn't taking notes, I wasn't recording. It was just for the family to feel comfortable with us and for us to understand them better.
To build relationships.
Fernando, what's the takeaway for the audience about this family?
I think what's really unique about this family, and at the same time not unique at all, what we wanted the audience to see is that this is one family and there are millions like this family. A lot of people assume that or judge the fact that a mother or father would be separated and be sent back to their home country, in this case Mexico. Why don't they take the whole family with them? Why not take the kids and take them to Mexico? Well, we see that these kids, for example, Bobby in first grade, he didn't really know how to even read or write in Spanish very well. He struggled a lot. There's better opportunities for the children here. So it shows that this issue is happening here, but it's a representation of what's going on all over the country.
And I'm going to cut you off. I'm sorry, Perla. We're going to end on Fernando because I also want to announce to our viewers that this is your last appearance on Metro Week. In our last 15 seconds, tell us where you're going.
I'm very excited to be joining the Latino USA team. It's an NPR podcast based in New York City, so I will be leaving next week to join their team.
Well, we will miss you here at Arizona Public Media. Thank you for all your contributions. And Perla, thank you for coming in today.
Hi, I'm Lorraine Rivera. Tonight on Arizona Week, she's the CEO of the Girl Scouts and she's from Arizona and actively recruiting future leaders.
This is now my opportunity to give back to an organization that not only impacted my life, but impacted the lives of 59 million women in the United States.
In Fernando's radio story, we hear how family separation can affect a child's education. Many children, not just those affected by immigration issues, need extra services at school because of their challenging home situations, whether they're homeless or without legal guardians. We went to a family resource center in the Tucson Unified School District to see how the schools tried to serve these kids. Here's my interview with Alma Iñiguez, director of the district's Family and Community Outreach. She runs the Wakefield Family Resource Center. Give us a sense of how many families, how many people you serve here, and what types of situations some of them might be in.
We service all of TUSD families, whoever it may need. They may need help, but we have serviced over probably 1,000 families since we opened. This center is open to, again, all the TUSD families and their needs. It's just a realm of needs, whether it's things they need for school, information about the community, health insurance, anything that they may need for their children, food, backpacks, school uniforms. So we are here to help them in every way we can. If they have a question, we find the answer, and we try to also get information from other organizations so that we can give it to the parents.
You said 1,000 families you've served, and you just opened in April, so that's just in a few months you've served 1,000
That's
families.
correct. We have the parents sign in every time that they come, so as we accumulate those signatures, it's actually been over 1,000 signatures that we've had. Some of them are people that come on a daily basis because they come to the classes or they come for the food pantry, but in reality we've served probably over 1,000 families.
What are some of the other ways you serve? The food pantry, we're sitting in the clothing bank. You mentioned classes. What else
That's
happens
correct.
here?
The families are able to get food boxes from the Southern Arizona Community Food Bank. That's our new service that we have, and whoever needs the food, we actually provide them with the box of food. We also have the clothing bank. Again, this is for TUSD students, and especially for those that are in need of uniforms and backpacks, school supplies, and we also have shoes for them. So again, everything is free. And then we have IMU 360 is an organization that is working with us. It's a nonprofit, and they provide hygiene items for students who are considered homeless. So they have shampoo, soap, hairspray for those students that are in need.
And what about the classes? Who are those serving?
So the classes and workshops that we have for the parents, they're just a variety of classes. When we first did, actually Mexican American Student Services conducted a survey, and through that survey we learned that the families are interested in getting classes and workshops in different areas: health, literacy, insurance, food, nutrition, transportation. A lot of TUSD departments, the families need that information, so we provide also information about the TUSD services that we have here. They need information about insurance. It's just a wealth of information that they need, so we try to provide it as needed.
73% of the district is at or below the poverty line. You've got some homeless students, families affected by military deployments, maybe even immigration deportations. How do you figure out who needs the services you provide?
Right now, it's just about getting the word out. We have on TUSD1.org, we have on that website, we provided information about the center, including the classes. We understand the need of all these families, and the best way to get the word out is through flyers and really investing our time in going to the schools and meeting with those families and meeting with those parents. So we're always invited to open house, parent meetings, little cafecitos that the schools may have, and we're always there providing these families with the information. Again, it's getting the word out. We are also in the process of doing like a parent link with the surrounding schools so that they are informed about the services that we have here at the Wakefield Family Resource Center.
Now, if a school identifies a child who's in need or a family who's in need, how do they connect them with you?
Because we just opened in April, that's a new process for us. We have a referral form, and so that's available to all the schools. And so therefore, if they see a family in need, they'll give that referral form to the family and then let them know that we are here. So then they come with that referral form and we know what kind of needs that family has. But again, all this is in the process of being out, to the schools.
Now, you've mentioned that all of the services and all of the items that are provided here are free for families. How do you acquire them, or do you buy them? Do people donate them?
All this is through donations. Again, the food pantry, we have been very fortunate to be partnering up with the Southern Arizona Food Bank, and so they're bringing us the canned goods on a monthly basis. The clothing that you see here, we have the Duffy Clothing Bank, which is on Magnolia, and that's our big clothing bank for the district. But as we open these centers, now these are considered smaller clothing banks, but all those donations have come through there and people just continuously come and donate. We also have EEF, who is providing us with their donations, and we have other organizations that just bring new clothes and gently used clothes for us. We're very fortunate in that sense.
Tell me about the process of how you figure out how to help a child or a family. How do you determine what needs they have?
A lot of times these families just come here because they don't know where else to go. They drop off their children at school, and sometimes they know that they need food, supplies, or even as a new parent, they need these classes as a new parent. So we conduct surveys, and that's a lot of information for us. But at the end of the day, really the parents have different different stories, I guess you could say, and through those stories is the way we provide these services for them. Like you mentioned before, a lot of it is, where are we gonna sleep tonight? Do we have money for bills? And so we can help them as much as we can, but it's in a one-to-one basis on the way we help the children. And like I said, Rosa Maria, who is our school community liaison, she is, the heart and soul of this Family Resource Center. She is here, and she can tell you a lot more also about the stories of these families, because she talks to them on a daily basis, and their needs they're just, overwhelming sometimes.
Do you think you're meeting the needs of all of the children in TUSD who have needs for extra resources?
Again, we're trying our best. We are trying our best. Wakefield is one of 4 family resource centers that we are planning on opening. Our next one will be at Palo Verde. That family resource center will be open soon. And then we will have Southwest and Catalina. And I think that's going to be a great way to really reach out and reach as many parents as we can and families.
There are a few classes happening as we conduct this interview today. Tell me what those classes are, just for examples, what's happening this morning.
So we have the Keith and Keen, which is a 14-week class, and it talks about brain development, activities for children, positive communication, and it's mostly for those people who are care providers, who care for either neighbors or children or older people. So that class is a training for those providers of these children, and at the end they will be able to get a car seat, fire extinguishers, smoke alarms, and these are free classes. So that's one of the classes, the Keith and Keen. We also have computer classes on Fridays, and that's just basic keyboarding skills. We have Parent Connect, and then we have several classes that TUSD departments also hold for our parents. And again, that's through food services, transportation. These are, a lot of times families need to know what the departments provide for them. So we also have transportation, Title I, Magnet programs. Those are all classes and workshops that we hold for the families here.
So it's resources for daily living, but also questions about the district and bigger picture.
That's correct. That's correct. We try to balance out, again, what the needs of the parents are, but also in conjunction with what TUSD has already. We have an abundance of resources here, and a lot of times parents don't know how to connect to those resources. So here we try to give them an overview and give them a leeway on how to, go and see what those departments have and what they can offer these families.
How can people help you?
People can always, we're always asking for donations, of course, for the clothing bank, gently used items, shoes, hygiene items also for those that that need it. We would also love for people to volunteer here if they want to come to the clothing bank and help out. And then as far as always, bringing in resources to the Family Resource Center. And what I mean by that is letting us know what's out there so that we can bring these classes to the parents, whether it's ESL, parenting classes, health classes. We are always welcome, and we're always looking for new partnerships.
Alma Iñiguez, Director of the Family Resources Center, thank you so much.
Thank you.
The Resource Center also offers help for the adults who make up a child's support system. They can take classes or pick up emergency food supplies. We sat in on one of the classes this week and asked participants what they're learning and how they will apply it to their lives.
Actividad física. La importancia de enseñar a los niños.
We learn here to teach children to be independent since they're in a very early age. The children are like sponges, and we need to teach them with our actions and our good examples, and that way they can learn to have very well behave. I'm very happy to be here to learning so many things and I thought them were not important, and then I didn't realize then they were not important, like for example to have the children to have activities for them. It had been an awakening call for me because I see how our parents make mistakes to raise their children. Because parents are not informed, because parents don't get the information and the education to raise their children. What I have learned here is, and it's awakening to me, to teach other parents what I have been learning here, to teach them to be facilitator for this class. I have a grandchild, a 2-year-old girl, then I can teach her better things by learning in this class. I'm a volunteer in a church, and I take care of children in that church, and this will help me. And I will be putting in practice everything that I'm learning.
Este día estoy en esta clase porque
I am taking this class because this class teaches you how children behave and how to treat children. And since I'm a volunteer parent, I like to learn so I can take care of children as well. I started cleaning tables at the cafeteria, and I also will go in field trips. And now I teach other parents how to be involved with their children's education. All that classes then I take in this center, not only this one, it teaches me how to be a better mother, a better person, and a better community member.
Organizaciones de centros y que se haga más.
I would love for these organizations, these centers to continue to be more publicized to the other parents so they take advantage of the services they provide here, because these are great for them to learn and to be more involved with their children's education.
Earlier in the show, we discussed Arizona Public Media's special radio program, Divided by Law. To see and hear more, go to dividedbylaw.com. There you can read each child's story, listen to our special radio report about the impact the situation has on each of the siblings, and peruse photos. Next week, we'll return to our election coverage for the November ballot. Thanks for watching.